For those of you that don't know me, I'm Ann Pence, and I'm here at Covington now. I spent a lot of my life at the State Department working on Africa and other issues. I lived in Sudan for 3 years, so when I one day saw somebody send an email around, I think it might have been Peter Lichtenbaum, and I saw that someone from Sudan needed help. I said, well, I'm not a lawyer, but I'm jumping on that one. So that's how I got involved with Amel, which didn't even exist then. It was an apple in someone's eye. So I'm on the board of advisors, and Covington and Jones Day are co-sponsoring this event. So Mark Donig and I are going to kick this off. We're really happy to see all of you here this evening for the launch of Amel, which, if you don't know, actually means hope in Arabic, and I think that's appropriate. Covington is really pleased to be part of the team, along with Becky Young of Hammond & Young, who helped to bring Mohammed Abu Bakr to the United States, which has allowed him to be able to share with all of us and many others his experiences of working with young activists in Africa and the Middle East to build peace and to resist extremism and to have hope, which is what this is really all about. So from Covington, we have a pro bono group, Kelly Vosh, Charmaine Heng. They paved the way for Peter Lichtenbaum right here, and myself, Victor Ojukwu, Stu Eisenstadt, Keir Gums, Tom Plotkin, and a bunch of others. There's a bunch of us here at Covington who've been helping Amel organize itself, get its 501c3 status, and a variety of other nuts and bolts, not very exciting things, but very important things that any nonprofit organization has to have. So now that that's done, with your support, all of you here, Amel is ready to work very hard to create networks of young leaders from Africa and the Middle East. And Amel is going to help arm them with very important tools of communication, policy development, and organizational tools, because they're going to need those to build inclusive societies in Africa and the Middle East. We've seen many places where the youth were energized, but they didn't know what to do once they had the opportunity to create change, and therefore they weren't always successful, and we're going to try to change that. The effort is very much needed. Today, 55% of all the people in the world live in places that are unfree and not democratic, where their hopes and dreams cannot be realized, particularly by they themselves. I was very privileged to serve my country at the State Department, USAID, and the Millennium Challenge Corporation for many years. So I'm afraid I had to see up close and personal what happens when people are not given those kinds of freedoms and when they just have no power to meet their own aspirations or contribute to their families and communities. So I also know that the best hope for protecting our own democratic rights and freedoms is for us to nurture them here, but also in the rest of the world. We all benefit when each of us is seen as an asset and enabled by the right policies and institutions. It is a privilege for me to be part of Amel with all these wonderful people and to work with this dedicated team, not just Mohammed Abu Bakr, who is a force of nature, but also Megan Hallahan, Gabby Cohan, Justin Hefter, Stephen Olakara, and of course, Ambassador Dennis Ross, who's here with us. We're very grateful for that. Former Senator Mark Kirk, who is full of incredibly brilliant ideas for how to make this thing work, I'm here to tell you. Professor Larry Diamond, and of course, as I mentioned, Mark Donig, who's here beside me. The team is willing to work really, really hard to do a really important thing, but we're going to need your support because this is something that whole societies have to participate in, and these networks are only going to be created and succeed with all of us being part of it. So contributions are welcome. And because we got the 501c3 status, they're tax-free. And we hope you will also spread the word on social media and elsewhere. We're very grateful to have Mark Donig and Jones Day co-sponsoring with us. So I'm going to turn it over to him now to say a few words. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you so much, Anne, and thanks again to all of our distinguished guests, all of you in attendance this evening. My name is Mark Donig, and it is my great honor and pleasure to be here tonight as the Jones Day representative for the Covington Jones Day legal team and host for this evening's event for Amel, and to do so beside Ann Pence, who's not only been a stellar public servant for decades, but who has become over the last year and a half plus a mentor to me, a friend of mine, and I'm sure the same to all of the members of the Amel team. For Jones Day to allow me, a first-year lawyer in their Silicon Valley office, the opportunity to be part of this outside counsel team for Amel, helping it navigate through corporate governance, through partnerships, through employment matters, and a variety of other matters has been a privilege. It speaks volumes about the firm that they were willing to take a chance not only on a new, then unknown organization, and a pro bono one at that, but one recommended to Jones Day by me, then a recent law school graduate with no experience working in the law, who had not even begun working at Jones Day. For that, I'm forever indebted to my firm and to the numerous senior partners, including Stuart Kerr, who is in this audience, who are now members of the Jones Day team that assists Amel. So you're going to hear plenty tonight about what makes Amel's model different and why its team of millennial leaders, guided by an advisory board with a wealth of experience from Silicon Valley to Washington to the Middle East to Africa, embody the prototype of the very change that Amel seeks to create. What you're going to hear less about, though, is what makes the people behind Amel different. I've had the good fortune of knowing and collaborating closely with many of the individuals, not only on Amel's creation, but also on other initiatives dating way back to well before Amel's inception. I can tell you that there are so many unbelievable people who have given so much of themselves, often at great risk, to give this organization life, knowing that if they did their job well, few people, if anyone, would notice. From those most responsible for this evening, from the chair, Gabby Cohan, to the fundraising committee chair, Justin Hefter, to executive director, Megan Hallahan, to every other member of the board of directors and the board of advisors, to the legal team, to everyone else who's lent support, you could not draw up a more dedicated, more brilliant, and most importantly, more selfless group of individuals. This is a team of all-stars, each of whom checked their egos at the door. Everyone has bought in. They know they're part of something special, and they want to do their part to make it so. This isn't about ego. Amel is about impact. So how does Amel bring out the best in those who get involved? That secret lies with the leader of this organization himself, Mohammed Abu Bakr. As those of you who are here tonight do not already know, if you do not already know, you will soon learn tonight that there is no easier person to rally around. There is no one who is more worth empowering in the United States today, and there is no one who has already done more at his age to empower others than Mohammed. And Mohammed's story, his courage, his humility, and the improbability of him even being here in the United States in the first place make supporting this all, thanks in large part to many of you sitting in this room, I might add, make supporting this organization an all the more worthy cause. The selflessness of this organization and its laser-like focus on impact emanate as a reflection of its leader. As a firm that's similarly dedicated to impact over ego, and to empowering millennials within its own ranks to take on responsibility for the well-being not only of the firm, but for the future of the rule of law and equal justice for all. It is Jones Day's great privilege to be a part of this evening and to lend our support, both financial and through our pro bono legal services, to a most worthy organization. We encourage you to be a part of this organization, to bring out the best in yourself, and to lend your support as well. And with that, it is my great pleasure to turn it over to our MC for this evening's proceedings. Please welcome founding president of the Millennial Action Project and member of the board of directors for Amel, Mr. Stephen Olacara.
We really want your money, by the way. Excellent. Thank you, Jenna. All right. Well, I have a lot of love for the people in this room here, and I'm so honored to be part of the crew. That's Team Mohammed and Team Amel Project. I want to start by saying thank you to Jones Day and thank you to Covington for the countless hours that you've put in to make today possible, to make the Amel Project possible. It's more hours than probably you bargained for. Let's give them a big round of applause. And to Mark and Ann, they're here representing their firms, but they're really family to me. I'm honored to call both of you friends and comrades on this journey. Thank you for inviting me to be part of this. And I also know we have Congressman Brad Schneider here, and I just want to recognize him. He's over there. Give him a big round of applause for his continued work on these issues. And to all of you, for coming out tonight, taking some time, for believing in our cause. I can't tell you how grateful this team has been. As Mark and Ann mentioned, there's a lot of time and a lot of sweat and tears that's got into this. And the first row is laughing at that. But it really means a lot to us, and we're very, very grateful. So we're here to launch an organization today. We're here to launch the African Middle Eastern Leadership Project. A year and a half ago, I got a frantic email from my friend, Mark Donig. Mark wrote this whole essay about a guy named Mohammed Abu Bakr, a pro-women's rights, pro-democracy, human rights activist from Sudan. And since that time, I've been grateful and proud to be part of the team that supported Mohammed's journey here to the United States and his work here since the time he's been here. And about 6 months later, a few of us had the chance to go to Peter and Greta's house for an event supporting Mohammed and to discuss some of the challenges facing human rights activists in the region. And on the van ride home, a few of us were talking and we realized, Mohammed has inspired us, but there are many more human rights activists in the region who can continue to inspire us. Many more activists who need support, who need safety, who need resources so they can be more effective in their activism and in their leadership. And that was the birth of the Amel Project, when we realized that this is truly a mission that's larger than all of us. So in our living room, the chairman of the board, Gabby, and I happened to be roommates at the time. So just as a side note, I really didn't have any choice but to be here. But in our living room, the ideas started to form. And the theory of change behind this resonated with me on many levels. And let me just propose two ideas that I think will resonate with you too. One is the idea that real change will come from bridging the divides, not only in this country, but around the world. And the second idea is that real political transformation will come from young leaders, just like Mohammed. That resonated with me, and that's why I decided to become part of this organization and serve on its board of directors. So tonight is about introducing this organization and introducing the person who inspired all of us to be here, and that's Mohammed Abu Bakr. So to do that, we're going to kick things off with a video.
No? Just checking if you're paying attention.
No, we're going to dance.
That's a different video. That's the after.
Be very careful.
Therefore was a disaster. It had smell, the smell of burning human beings, people rounded up in mass numbers for simply being born to that ethnic group. I certainly wish at that time that I was in Washington, D.C. to make sure that never again really means never again. My name is Mohammed, civil and human rights activist, born and raised in Khartoum, Sudan. Amel aspires to unite young millennial leaders across the Middle East and Africa to bring about change in the human rights scene in the region and to advocate for policies that favor that kind of transformations at the UN and at the European Union and here in Washington, D.C.
Mohammed is really in a class by himself. This is a person of enormous physical and moral courage, who has taken a lot of risk for values that we share in terms of tolerance, inclusiveness. But also I want to say, I think Amel really has the right motto, which is if change is going to happen in these societies, it's going to be from the bottom up.
What sets Amel apart is the direct link between the grassroots and the policy making.
And so I hope that Amel Project can be a place where lots of millennial leaders in the US and as well as in the region can get involved and find a voice. Leaders in the Middle Eastern and African region are faced with tremendous oppression right now, and Mohammed's is just one example of that.
In the space where human rights is increasingly being abused, the Africa Middle East Leadership Project is extremely important because it creates a link between young people across the region who are committed to fighting for democracy, for the defense of human rights and the rule of law.
Growing up in Sudan, support for what I did wasn't really felt. I definitely have long dreamt of somebody here in Washington, D.C. rooting for me that would support my mission. I'm trying to provide the support to these courageous young people I wish I had.
All of those associated with Amel understand the benefits of helping to give voice and power to the young women in Africa and the Middle East. Amel reflects the hope that young women in the region can be a key source of energy behind positive reform and for peace and prosperity.
You need some organizations, exactly like Amel, who knows exactly what's happening in the Middle East and who knows exactly what the youth needs. And I think Mohammed Vision is the one who would actually reflect that.
Ultimately, the world is interconnected. Human rights for the human of the Middle East and Africa is a win for any human anywhere in the world. I hope through Amel we can help transform reality of life in the continent of Africa and the region of the Middle East. And I hope that people and policymakers will help us achieve this goal.
Thank you, Megan.
Hi. I'd like to start this off with a big thank you to Covington and Jones Day for making this evening possible and for hosting us tonight. I came to this country and this city less than a year and a half ago. And like with most cheesy, cliche immigrant stories, I came here with practically nothing, about $122 to be exact, and my clothes bag. What I did have, though, upon arrival that most new immigrants usually don't have is a lot of lawyers. And obviously, that's all you need to make it in America. I think there's a decent chance that I was the most lawyered up, broke person to ever set foot in this country. To all my lawyers at Covington, at Jones Day, and at Hammond Young, thank you so much. I love you guys. I also want to thank two of my personal heroes, Senator Mark Kirk and Ambassador Dennis Ross, for clearing up your incredibly busy schedules to be here tonight. Thank you so much. And last but not least, thank you all for coming out tonight to celebrate with us and to commemorate what our team believes it to be not just the launch of a new organization, but the birth of a new movement. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. Before coming to the States, I divided my time between three different organizations. A national one focused on women empowerment and minority protection. An international one focused on intercultural peace building, and a third one focused on
engagement of Arab and Jewish millennials across the Middle East and North Africa in direct dialogue and cooperation, and in an effort to disrupt the tedious state of affairs in the Middle East and trying to find creative solutions to the long-standing Arab-Israeli conflict. So needless to say, I wasn't my government's model citizen, per se, and much of what I did was in public violation of a lot of inhumane and, for lack of better words, stupid laws. Laws like the one that deem my friendship with Nimrod right there, and Yael and Sarah, my friends from Israel, as something illegal, something that is a crime of treason and punishable by up to death sentence in Sudan. So, yeah, but I was okay. I have been doing this for a very long time, since I was practically a child, and I learned to navigate my government very, very well. But still, it's laws like this that discriminate against people because of their race, their gender, their sexual orientation, and national home infuriated me and fueled my activism to create a more inclusive Sudan, a Sudan that accepts and tolerates my gay friend and LGBT rights activist Ali, that doesn't harass my women rights advocate friend Fatima, and one that wouldn't sentence my atheist friend Mohammed to death for apostasy. And more importantly, a Sudan that does not tell me who I can and cannot be friends with. Each of these incredible humans I just mentioned have been leaders in our country and have been attacked for their views. There are hundreds of thousands of activists like them across the Middle East and Africa, and who are doing incredible work with the very little resources they have. It is definitely not money that they need, but the direct connection to decision makers here in Washington, D.C. With the right training, network, and policies that favor their mission, there is absolutely no limit to what they can achieve. Amel will strive to provide these incredible women and men across the region with that kind of support, the support that I wish I got when I was a young activist in Sudan. I'm 29 now, so I'm way too old. Through our Amel Fellows program in Washington, D.C., we aim to cultivate direct relationships between policymakers and these activists, and between them and members of Congress and diplomats and scholars and American peers, making sure that the voice of activists who are putting their own lives in the line for human rights and for liberal democratic values echo very loud and very clear in the halls of Capitol Hill and all the way to the boardrooms in Silicon Valley. In the long run, these innovative change makers who share our democratic values and experiences will be poised to replace the repressive dictators and autocratic regimes. In the past year, I have met some incredibly brilliant policymakers here in DC. Yet some of the most amazing and inspiring people I have met thus far in Washington, D.C. have been Uber drivers, and I'm not kidding at all, Uber drivers and gas station attendants. I have met people who fled horrible atrocities, translators who worked with the U.S. Army in Iraq and Afghanistan, and human rights activists who spent years and years fighting for progressive causes in their native country. They have invaluable hands-on experience in human rights and encountering violent extremism, but who now have to start life over and who have no voice here in the United States. In addition to providing the opportunity for people in the region to come here and be heard, we are creating a speakers bureau to amplify the voices of those already here in this country. The Amel Project has already brought together an incredible team of activists, of policymakers, and all of you guys here in this room tonight. Our founding team is a group of Muslim, Jewish, Christian, and atheists. Our advisors are from Congress and State Department. The people we support are from Africa and the Middle East. The faces in this room tonight are as diverse as it can get. It reminds me of a quote by a great man who stood not so far from where I'm standing right now and famously said, "I have a dream," and forever changed the reality of life here in America. The quote goes, "We may have all come in different ships, but we are all in the same boat now." While Dr. King was referring to the reality of racial injustice in the United States and how it will ultimately affect every single American, I couldn't help but see it being valid also in a more universal context. Especially in today's world, more than ever, our faiths are so interconnected and intertwined. Whether we like it or not, we are indeed on the same boat. What happens in the Middle East and Africa will not stay in the Middle East and Africa, the good and the bad. Similarly, what happens here will affect people in the Middle East and Africa and activists on the ground, and it already has. We in this room are able to choose whether our actions and investments promote the good or the bad in this interconnected cycle. Investing in those who share our values and democratic ideals that we cherish, even if they are an ocean away, it's ultimately an investment in ourselves and in our way of life. We want to fundamentally change the way we engage on the Middle East and Africa and the way the region engage with us here, and to build new relationship that is built first and foremost on shared ethics and shared values. For me and for all of us at Team Amel, that's the dream. And I hope you will join us in our dream. Thank you so much.
Good evening. My name is Jenna Gable. I'm not one of the hundreds of lawyers in the room who helped Mohammed, but I'm a big fan and honored to be on the board of directors for the Amel Project. Mohammed, it is such an honor to celebrate you tonight and witness the beginning of this movement. I can speak for myself and many others in the room that you have enriched our lives in so many ways. I feel very lucky to call you my friend, and I recognize all the risks you have taken to befriend me and many other Jews and Israelis who are in the room tonight. Being our friend is illegal in your country, a crime that is punishable by death. But your willingness to stand up for what you believe in and bridge the divide between our cultures serves as an inspiration to us all. To me, there's no better place for you to launch the Amel Project than in DC. When you are in Africa, I know you look to DC as the place where change can happen, the city where rights are upheld. When I look around this room, it's exciting to know that so many others share the same values that you and other activists across the Middle East and Africa hold dearly. When I look for other people really catalyzing change, I would be remiss to not mention my dear friends Mark Donig, Gabby Cohand, and Justin Hefter. Will you all raise your hands really quick? For the past few years, I've watched these men empower activists like Mohammed in the Middle East and North Africa. Not by flying across the world to their rescue, not by negotiating face-to-face with international diplomats. These guys did it from their couches. Using their laptops and cell phones, they tapped into social media networks to help activists find safety and were instrumental in bringing Mohammed to the US to start the Amel Project. Similar to many of you in the room, I spent my time in DC trying to make a difference, applying my education, skill sets, and passions to move the needle on issues I cared about. What inspires me most about Mark, Gabby, and Justin is that they went from people that were simply interested in an issue to people who are actively saving lives on the ground. Ultimately, these guys are empowering activists like Mohammed from the bottom up, just like Mohammed is aiming to do with the Amel Project. We need more millennial activists in the Middle East, Africa, and in DC, who are equipped and empowered to stand up for our values. The reality is sometimes it's easier than we think. Sometimes it just takes a good couch, technology, and a bit of persistence to create powerful change. The truth is all of us in this room are capable of this work. Simply by pulling out your phone and taking 30 seconds to make a donation to amelproject.org/donate, your gift will empower these courageous human rights activists abroad to fight for freedoms we are lucky to enjoy every day. We are excited to announce that an anonymous donor offered to match up to $10,000 in the next 24 hours, and we hope you can help us reach that goal. And so as our next speaker takes the stage, and as you see behind me, please take a minute to fill out the pledge cards on your chair or follow the instructions on the screen. Many of us grew up hearing the phrase, never again. The reality is it has happened again in our lifetime, and I believe we must do everything we can to support the people fighting the fight every day. So Mohammed, Mark, Gabby, and Justin, thank you for inspiring us all. I've learned from these guys that no action, donation, or act of kindness is too small. I hope you will join me in supporting their efforts.
Thank you, Jenna, and thank you for spearheading our efforts to raise money for the Amel Project. So I now have the great pleasure to introduce an extraordinary public servant named Senator Mark Kirk. Senator Kirk was the U.S. Senator from my neighboring state, Wisconsin. He was U.S. Senator from Illinois from 2010 to 2017, prior to which he served in the U.S. House. He is a co-founder of the Human Rights Caucus in the Senate, which he started with Senator Chris Coons. And one of the extraordinary things about Senator Kirk are the many quiet ways he has helped and even been responsible for human rights activists in the region finding safety without any fanfare at a time when so many members of Congress can't wait to get to a camera, can't wait to issue a press release. Senator Kirk has been doing the good work very quietly. And we are extremely grateful to have him serve as an advisor to Amel and for his service to our country and the world. Please give a big welcome to Senator Kirk.
I want to thank everybody for being here. I will say that I'm going to confine my remarks to you. That when I survived this stroke between life and death, that I thought a lot about why I am here on this planet, and I want you to think about the same thing. When you think about this enormous gift you've been given of life here in this country, the question that you have to ask yourself, what is my purpose and why am I here? If you ask those questions of yourself, then you will find a tremendous mission like I found of public service and advancing human rights. And for Amel, my hope is that I will say that Gretchen Blum is in this room. She helped me get the Muhammad al-Sawawi out, of which there's a book and a movie coming out. Gretchen, why don't you stand up and take a bow? Because she did all the work. There she is, yeah. I told my staff, as Gretchen remembers, that their job was to get one prisoner a year out of jail. When you think of all the hellholes that we have around the world, of somebody rotting in some Sudanese prison or a Bosnian prison or a Yemeni prison, getting that person out of jail in a way that reflects our innermost values and our feelings about what it means to be a human being on this planet is, I would say, because we're in the middle of our fundraising drive, that how much would you pay to get one of your fellow human beings out of a total hellhole? A lot. I would say that it's worth our time and effort to make sure. Let me conclude by a joke that I talked to Justin about this. If we took the name Amel and added the C and turned our name into Kamel, we are so heavily lawyered up here. We could challenge British American Tobacco for the rights of that name. And together we would build a stronger brand than they have. Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, baby. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Senator Kirk, and for your continued advocacy, not only for our organization, but for the human rights causes that we all believe in. So next up is the keynote speaker of the evening. That's going to be Ambassador Dennis Ross. And I've heard many stories from Mohammed as he was growing up as a young activist in Sudan. Ambassador Ross was one of his true idols. In fact, he received a signed copy of one of his books when he was growing up in Sudan. That book is called The Missing Piece. And since then, Ambassador Ross has been synonymous with peace building in the region. He's served as a lead envoy and a special advisor overseeing the region for Presidents H.W. Bush, President Clinton, and President Obama. And now he's a distinguished fellow at the Washington Institute. So please help us welcoming Ambassador Dennis Ross.
So I don't remember how many months ago it was that you came to see me in my office. And these guys come in. I don't really know who they are. And when they walk in, I kind of look at my watch and say, I got some time. Okay. So, all right, why are you here? I think I opened in I'm a longtime diplomat, so I was highly subtle in terms of how I opened up. I said, so why are you here? And to use a diplomatic term, I listened to Mohammed for maybe a minute, and I was blown away. And I said, now I know why I'm here. The truth is, on a night like this, you really don't need to listen to someone like me. Now, your story is much more compelling than anything I can say. I mean, what you embody is an inspiration and a sign of the human spirit at its best. I've spent a lot of time trying to deal with the issue of peace in the Middle East. You can see how successfully. One of the reasons that there isn't peace in the Middle East is because everybody is in love with their own narrative. Nobody has the capacity to sort of hear the other side and realize that there are real needs, real grievances, real wounds that have to be addressed. You have a conflict that feeds on itself. Actually, Mohammed, you said it, but I'll say it slightly differently. The Las Vegas rules don't apply, right? The Las Vegas rules say what takes place here stays here. Well, in the Middle East, what takes place there never stays there. We're not insulated from it. We're not free from it. The idea that when you have humanitarian catastrophes that they don't affect us, that they don't somehow diminish our own humanity, is an illusion. So here comes an organization that, in a sense, says we don't have to settle. We don't have to settle for this conflict. We don't have to accept that conflict is the norm. What was called the Arab Spring is something I never accepted as a terminology. Because the Arab Spring sent this message that, we're going to produce democracy in 6 weeks. The 6 weeks it takes for a flower to bloom, we're going to produce democracy. That was never going to happen. But what it reflected was a loss of fear and a sense that people could be empowered. Now, unfortunately, it produced terrible backlashes, terrible conflicts. And now those conflicts have created a loss of hope. And it's the loss of hope that makes it difficult to take on these kinds of challenges. So along you come, and you're the embodiment of hope. You're the embodiment of a sense of spirit that says, no, we don't give in. I'm told I can't deal with Israelis, or I can't talk to Jews. No, I won't give in to that. And you offer first an organization that is designed to, in a sense, identify the other people like you. As you said, you're not alone. But somehow the people who feel like you have to be identified. Somehow the people who feel like you have to know there are others like them. Somehow they have to know that they can connect with others. Somehow they have to know that if they develop a network and they have a voice, they will be heard. And, we're living in a city right now where I wouldn't say hope is the most predominant description of the reality here. But, that's actually an argument for this kind of an organization. when you can't find the answers through the traditional means of government, well, then the answer is with us, and we don't stop. You know, the Middle East right now is characterized not just by conflict, it's characterized by a loss of identity, a struggle for who should define identity. When I hear people say it's a war between civilizations, no, it's not. It's a war within Islam, and there are those who are prepared to promote tolerance and coexistence and a respect for minority rights, the one thing that is completely missing in the Middle East, a respect for minority rights. If you could cross that threshold, you'd suddenly find that peace between Arabs and Israelis would look a lot different than it does. So what you represent is a spirit and a sense of purpose. And Mark, you said something I think profoundly important to people here. You know, whatever you're doing, whatever your occupation is, you should search for meaning in your lives. Some people are lucky enough to have it in terms of what they do as part of their life. Others will have a job which, you know, they believe in and so forth, but it doesn't necessarily give them a purpose in their life. Here's an organization that can give you a purpose in your life. You know, it's one thing for people here to ask for your money, which obviously organizations don't exist without money. But it's something else for you not only to give money, but to actually give of your time. And to think as you give of your time that you're part of something larger than yourself. That gives meaning and purpose to your life, when you are part of something that is larger than yourself. So you guys came in to see me, and I'm going, okay, I'm going to meet some millennials. I actually tend to teach them. And you came in and you taught me. And you reminded me what are the things that I consider to be important. And, you know, I hope that everybody who's here will recognize that you're looking at not only a special person, but you're looking at an interesting collection of younger people who've decided they're not going to settle. They're not going to accept. They can change things. And they're not going to wait for the world to change. They're going to change the world. So, you know, you thank me for coming out tonight. I thank you for being who you are. And I thank the collective of you for sitting on your couches and realizing that with social media, you can do a lot. You know, we may not change everything overnight, but if we make a collective sense of a collective commitment to making change and producing it and making this part of how you define purpose in your life, then I'll have a lot of confidence that in time, a lot of the things that I've tried to produce over time may yet materialize. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador Ross. I can't tell you how much it means that you're here with us tonight and that you're willing to serve on our board of advisors. And you're willing to take that meeting, too. So, you know, I remember one thing from that meeting. So we came to this part of the conversation where Mohammed was talking about the number of lawyers he has, the many people who are involved in this organization, the many friends who have been with him on this journey. And he says something that shouldn't come as any surprise to people in the front row here, which is, he said, you know, I'm one lucky son of a something. It's a family audience here. He said, I'm so lucky. And Ambassador Ross then said, no. Mohammed has inspired us to raise our vision, to raise our conviction. He has been the one who has inspired all of us to be here today. He has raised all of our games. And I can't tell you how much Mohammed has impacted my life, how much he's impacted the lives of the people here who he's met. We're one lucky son of a somethings to be in your life, Mohammed. So to close things out tonight, there are certain people here who want to be behind the scenes, who have been putting in an insane amount of time into this organization, and they said they didn't want to be up here. I'm sorry, I can't end this event without having you guys up here. I want Gabby Cohan, Mohammed, Ann, Mark, Jenna, Justin, Ambassador Ross, Senator Kirk, Megan Hallahan to all come up here right now. If you're on the board of advisors, board of directors, please come up here right now. This team is an extraordinary team. And just when you think that it's impossible to build peace in the Middle East because you've read too many headlines, just when you think it's impossible for young leaders to bridge these entrenched divides because of all the violent conflict that you've been seeing, if you think it's impossible, I need you to look at this team up here. If you think it's impossible, I need you to remember what Nelson Mandela said. It always seems impossible until it is done. Thank you, guys. Have a good night. The Amel Project is officially launched. Thank you.